The salty tang of the Pacific Ocean mingled with the heady aroma of lavender, Eleanor's favorite. The setting sun painted the California sky in vibrant hues of orange and pink, a breathtaking backdrop to the beachside bonfire I had arranged. This wasn't just any anniversary. It was our 10th decade of marriage I intended to celebrate in grand style. Eleanor deserved nothing less. I had spared no expense hiring a local chef to prepare a gourmet feast, a renowned guitarist to serenade us with Spanish melodies, and a pyrotechnician to light up the night sky with a dazzling display of fireworks. Tonight, I wanted her to feel like the most cherished woman in the world, a goddess bathed in the golden light of our love. Eleanor radiant in a flowing white sundress. Her hair catching the firelight looked more beautiful than ever. Seeing her laughing with our closest friends, a deep sense of contentment settled over me. 10 years, a decade of shared laughter, of weathering storms together, of building a life rooted in love and mutual respect. This celebration, this perfect moment, felt like the culmination of everything we had worked for. As the embers glowed and the stars began to emerge, Eleanor took my hand, her eyes sparkling with an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. I anticipated a heartfelt declaration of love, a nostalgic reminiscence of our journey together. But no, she raised her glass, her gaze shifting towards David Miller, a charismatic architect she had collaborated with on a recent project. David. Eleanor announced, her voice carrying over the gentle lapping of the waves. My muse, my inspiration. You've opened my eyes to a world of possibilities I never knew existed. A knot of unease tightened in my stomach. David, a name that had become increasingly frequent in her conversations, initially dismissed as a harmless professional connection. A cold dread began to seep into my veins, but I desperately clung to the belief that she would include me in her tribute, acknowledge my presence, my unwavering support throughout our 10 years together. She didn't. Instead, Eleanor turned to me, a strange, almost apologetic smile playing on her lips. She handed me a small, beautifully wrapped gift, saying, "And for you, my dear." My heart pounded against my ribs, a mixture of apprehension and confusion swirling within me. I tore open the wrapping, expecting a heartfelt card, a cherished memento, anything that reflected the depth of our shared history. But nestled within the layers of tissue paper was a simple, unassuming key. A key to what? Hey, new car. A vacation home. My mind raced, grasping for a plausible explanation. Eleanor watched me, her expression a mixture of anticipation and something else I couldn't quite place. It's to a storage unit, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I've packed your things. The blood drained from my face, the key suddenly feeling like a lead weight in my hand. The bonfire crackled merrily beside us, the flames dancing in the twilight, oblivious to the seismic shift occurring within my world. The storage unit. My things. The pieces began to fall into place. The cryptic comments, the late-night phone calls, the growing distance between us. It wasn't a celebration of our love. It was a carefully orchestrated goodbye. 10 years. 10 years reduced to a storage unit key and a carefully worded dismissal. The fireworks began to explode. Overhead, bursts of vibrant color illuminating the shocked expressions of our friends. But I couldn't see them, couldn't hear the celebratory cheers. All I could feel was the earth crumbling beneath my feet, the California dream shattering into a million pieces. Without a word, without a single tear, I turned and walked away, leaving the bonfire, the fireworks, and the wreckage of my marriage behind me, disappearing into the encroaching darkness. The cool night air whipped through my hair as I drove, the rhythmic whoosh of the tires on the asphalt, a stark counterpoint to the chaotic thoughts swirling in my head. I hadn't even bothered to retrieve my belongings from the storage unit. The key, a heavy, mocking reminder of Eleanor's betrayal. Instead, I drove aimlessly the familiar California highways, suddenly feeling alien and unfamiliar. Where was I going? What was I supposed to do? 10 years of my life had just evaporated, leaving me adrift in a sea of uncertainty. My phone buzzed incessantly, texts and calls from concerned friends, curious onlookers, and undoubtedly Eleanor herself. I ignored them, all the silence in the car, a fragile sanctuary against the onslaught of questions and condolences I wasn't ready to face. As I drove, the initial shock began to give way to a dull ache, a hollow emptiness that settled deep in my chest. How could she do this? How could she erase a decade of shared history with such callous indifference? The questions echoed in the silence, unanswered, unanswerable. Hours later, as the first rays of dawn began to paint the eastern sky, I found myself pulling into a dusty motel on the outskirts of Joshua Tree National Park. The desert, vast and unforgiving, seemed to mirror the desolate landscape of my inner world. I checked into a small, sparsely furnished room. The only sound, the hum of the ancient air conditioner, struggling against the desert heat. I collapsed onto the bed, fully clothed, exhaustion finally claiming me. When I woke, the sun was high in the sky, the desert air shimmering with heat. I showered the hot water, a small comfort against the chill that still lingered in my bones, and ventured out into the blinding sunlight. The stark beauty of the desert, the twisted Joshua trees reaching towards the heavens, the rugged mountains silhouetted against the azure sky, held a strange, unexpected solace. In the face of such ancient, enduring grandeur, my own pain felt small, insignificant. I spent the next few days wandering through the park, hiking among the rock formations, losing myself in the vastness of the landscape. The solitude, initially oppressive, gradually became a source of strength. The silence, once filled with unanswered questions, began to fill with the whispers of new possibilities. I started to think about what I wanted, what I needed, independent of Eleanor, independent of the life we had built together. One evening, as I sat watching the sunset paint the desert sky in fiery hues, I made a decision. I wouldn't let Eleanor's betrayal define me. I wouldn't let her erase the last 10 years. Instead, I would use this experience as a catalyst for change, an opportunity to rebuild my life brick by brick. On my own terms, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the storage unit key, the metal cold against my palm. It was time to reclaim my belongings, not as remnants of a shattered past, but as the foundation of a new beginning. The storage unit, a sterile metal box in the sprawling suburbs of Los Angeles, felt like a tomb. The air was thick with dust and the faint scent of forgotten memories. As I unlocked the padlock, a wave of apprehension washed over me. Inside, stacked haphazardly, were the remnants of my former life furniture books, photographs, boxes filled with mementos of a decade spent building a home with Eleanor. Each item, each object, was a poignant reminder of what I had lost. I began the arduous task of sorting through the belongings, deciding what to keep, what to discard, what to salvage from the wreckage of my past. The process was both cathartic and painful, a forced confrontation with the ghosts of my former life. As I sifted through the boxes, I stumbled upon a photo album, its pages filled with snapshots of Eleanor and me, younger, carefree, our faces radiant with love and hope. A sharp pang of regret shot through me, a bittersweet longing for the days when our future stretched before us, a blank canvas filled with endless possibilities. Needing a distraction from the emotional turmoil, I threw myself into my work. I was a software engineer, a career I had always enjoyed, but had often neglected in favor of nurturing my relationship with Eleanor. Now the intricate world of code became my refuge, a place where I could lose myself in logic and problem-solving, a welcome respite from the messy realities of my personal life. I started working longer hours, taking on challenging projects, pushing myself to excel. The focus and discipline required by my work provided a sense of control, a much-needed anchor in the turbulent sea of my emotions. Gradually, the sharp edges of my pain began to soften, replaced by a quiet determination to rebuild my life piece by piece. One evening, while working late at the office, I ran into Isabella, a graphic designer who worked on a different floor. We had met briefly at a company social event months earlier, but had never really spoken. She was kind, intelligent, with a quick wit and a contagious laugh that seemed to chase away the shadows that had been clinging to me for weeks. We started talking initially about work, then about life, about the challenges and triumphs of navigating the complexities of human relationships. Isabella had also recently gone through a difficult breakup, and there was a shared understanding, a sense of camaraderie that blossomed between us. Her presence, her unwavering optimism, was a breath of fresh air, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a new beginning. As the weeks turned into months, my friendship with Isabella deepened. She encouraged me to pursue my passions, to rediscover the parts of myself that had been dormant for years. I started playing guitar again, something I had loved as a child, but had abandoned during my marriage. I joined a local hiking group, exploring the hidden trails and breathtaking vistas of the California wilderness. I even started taking photography classes, capturing the beauty of the world around me through a new lens. With Isabella's encouragement, I also began to think about investing in a small tech startup, a venture that had always intrigued me, but had seemed too risky during my marriage. Now, with a newfound sense of freedom and a desire to take control of my own destiny, I decided to take the leap. It felt like a gamble, a step into the unknown, but it also felt exhilarating, a tangible manifestation of my commitment to building a new life, a life filled with passion and purpose. Just as I was starting to feel a sense of equilibrium, a ghost from the past resurfaced. I received an email from Eleanor, the first contact since the night of the anniversary party. My heart pounded in my chest as I opened it, a mixture of apprehension and curiosity churning within me. She expressed remorse, regret, a desire to explain. She claimed she had made a mistake, that she missed me, that she wanted to try again. I reread the email several times, the words blurring on the screen. A part of me, a small, vulnerable part, still clung to the memory of the love we had once shared, the years of happiness and companionship. But another part of me, the part that had been slowly rebuilding itself, brick by brick, recognized the manipulation, the desperation in her plea. I had spent months picking up the pieces of my shattered life, and I wasn't about to let her shatter them again. I didn't respond to Eleanor's email immediately. Instead, I went for a long hike, losing myself in the quiet solitude of the redwood forest. As I walked, I thought about everything that had happened, the pain, the betrayal, the long journey of healing and self-discovery. And for the first time, I felt a surge of anger, not directed at Eleanor, but at myself, for allowing myself to be so completely defined by our relationship. That night, I sat down at my computer and began to write. I poured out all my thoughts and feelings, the hurt, the confusion, the anger, the slow, steady process of rebuilding. I wrote about the bonfire, the storage unit, key, the long desert nights, the chance encounter with Isabella, the rediscovery of my passions. I wrote about the fear and uncertainty of starting over, and the exhilarating freedom of forging a new path. I didn't intend for anyone to read it. It was simply a way to process my emotions, to make sense of the chaos. On a whim, I decided to post my writing on an online forum, a community of people sharing their stories of heartbreak and resilience. The response was overwhelming. People connected with my story, shared their own experiences, offered words of encouragement and support. I realized I wasn't alone in my pain, that there were others who had navigated similar storms and emerged stronger on the other side. The forum became a lifeline, a source of strength and inspiration. I started writing regularly, sharing my journey of healing and self-discovery, connecting with people from all walks of life who were also grappling with loss and rebuilding their lives. My friendship with Isabella continued to blossom, evolving into something deeper, more profound. We shared a connection, a mutual understanding that transcended the pain of our past relationships. She saw me truly, saw me for who I was, flaws and all, and she loved me, not in spite of my brokenness, but because of it. Our love story wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't a whirlwind romance. It was a slow burn, a gradual unfolding of trust and intimacy, built on a foundation of shared experiences and mutual respect. It was a love that acknowledged the scars of the past, but chose to focus on the promise of the future. A year after the anniversary party that had shattered my world, I stood on a windswept cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, Isabella's hand warm in mine. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, a breathtaking reminder of the beauty and resilience of the natural world. I had sold my shares in the tech startup, reaping a substantial reward for my investment, and was planning a trip around the world with Isabella, a journey of exploration and discovery. I thought about Eleanor, about the pain she had caused, the life we had lost. But the memory no longer held the same sting. I had forgiven her, not for her sake, but for mine. I had let go of the anger and the bitterness, choosing instead to focus on the present, on the love I had found, on the future we were building together. The California dream had indeed shattered, but from its fragments, I had forged something stronger, something more beautiful. A life built on authenticity, resilience, and a love that had blossomed from the ashes of heartbreak. The key to the storage unit, once a symbol of loss and betrayal, now rested on my keychain, a reminder of how far I had come, a testament to the transformative power of letting go and embracing the unknown.